every stage of narcissistic abuse and what it does to the victim.
It didn't start with pain. It started with the best feeling of your life. And that is the part nobody warns you about. Nobody tells you that the most dangerous relationship you will ever survive begins with feeling more loved, more seen, and more understood than you have ever felt before. By the time the damage begins, you are already too deep to see clearly. This is not a story about weak people making bad choices. This is a story about a precise psychological process and what it does to the human brain, stage by stage. Love bombing. You've never felt so chosen. Every morning starts with a message. Every evening ends with a compliment so specific it could only be meant for you. They remember the small things, the book you mentioned once, the childhood memory you shared in passing, the way you take your coffee. They call you their soulmate within weeks. They talk about the future like it's already written and you're already in it. Your brain responds exactly the way they planned. Dopamine floods your reward system. Oxytocin, the bonding chemical, begins locking you to this person on a biological level. Serotonin spikes. Your nervous system associates this person with safety, warmth, and home. You feel perhaps for the first time that someone truly understands the complete version of you. You are not falling in love. You are being chemically conditioned. The intensity feels romantic because society has taught you that intensity equals depth. That someone who loves you fast and loud loves you more than someone who loves you slowly and quietly. This belief is the first door they walk through. The speed isn't passion.
The speed is strategy. The faster the bond forms, the less time your rational mind has to evaluate whether the bond is built on anything real. This isn't affection. This is architecture. They are building something carefully, deliberately, and with full knowledge of what they are constructing. You are the material. The warmth you feel is completely real. The person creating it is not.
The idealization trap. They put you on a pedestal. They tell their friends about you. They tell their family. They introduce you as someone special, someone different, someone they have never encountered before. And for a while, you believe it because there is no rational reason not to. The evidence in front of you supports it entirely. But this is not admiration. This is investment. They are publicly inflating your value in their narrative, in their social circle, in your own self-perception, for one specific reason. When the pedestal is kicked out from under you later, the fall will be longer, more confusing, and more psychologically devastating than it would have been if you'd never been elevated in the first place. The higher they place you now, the more effectively you will blame yourself later. You will spend months trying to figure out what happened to the version of you they said was extraordinary. You will exhaust yourself trying to return to a status you never understood you had been temporarily assigned. The pedestal was never built for your comfort. It was built for your eventual destruction. Nobody gets placed on a pedestal without eventually being knocked off it. Devaluation. Something shifts. You don't know exactly when, you just know that something is different. The compliments become less frequent. The warmth becomes inconsistent. The person who once couldn't stop looking at you now barely registers your presence in the room. You try harder. You dress differently. You apologize more often for things you cannot clearly identify. You make yourself smaller, quieter, easier to be around. You run a constant internal inventory. What did I do wrong? When did I change? How do I fix this? But the inventory never produces a clear answer because the problem was never your behavior. Here is what is happening inside your brain during this stage. The unpredictability, affection 1 hour, coldness the next, warmth for 2 days, followed by cruelty for 3,
triggers a neurological process called intermittent reinforcement. It is the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When a reward is unpredictable, the brain becomes hyper-obsessed with obtaining it. Your dopamine system does not respond to consistent love.
It responds to the chase, and they have created a chase. You are not desperate because you are weak. You are desperate because your brain has been deliberately rewired to need their approval, the way lungs need air. The craving you feel for their attention is not a character flaw. It is the intended outcome of a very specific conditioning process. The criticism starts small. A comment about how you handled a situation, a look of disappointment after you say something, a comparison to someone else, famed as casual observation. These are not accidents. Each small erosion is a brick removed from the foundation of your self-worth. Done slowly enough, you don't notice the structure weakening. You just notice one day that you no longer feel solid. What confuses you most is that the person from stage 1 still appears. Not often, but enough. Enough to make you believe the warmth is still in there somewhere. Enough to make you believe that if you find the right combination of words, behaviors, and patience, you can bring that version of them back permanently. You cannot. That version was never permanent. That version was an introduction, and introductions are designed to make you want to stay. The devaluation is not the relationship falling apart. It is the relationship revealing exactly what it always was. The performance of stage 1 required enormous energy to maintain. Devaluation is simply the moment they stop performing and start showing you the structure underneath. You keep trying to understand what changed. The answer is nothing changed. What you are seeing now is not a deterioration. It is a reveal. And every time you apologize, every time you shrink, every time you try harder, you teach them that the strategy is working exactly as designed. The person you fell in love with didn't leave. They revealed themselves. And that is the cruelest discovery of stage 3. Not that they changed, but that they were always this person, and you were shown a different one first. Gaslighting. You remember what happened. You were there. You heard the words. You saw the expression. You felt the impact in your chest. But somehow, after every single argument, you end up being the one who apologizes. It starts with small corrections, a minor adjustment to what you remember, a gentle insistence that you misunderstood the tone, a patient explanation of why your interpretation of events is always slightly, consistently, systematically wrong. You accept the corrections because they are delivered calmly, and your upset is delivered emotionally. And somewhere along the way, you absorbed the idea that emotional equals unreliable. Then the corrections become larger. That never happened. You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You always do this. No one else sees it the way you see it. I'm worried about you. The last one is the most dangerous because it converts your valid perception of reality into a symptom of instability. What is happening inside your brain is measurable and documented. The hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory consolidation, begins to malfunction under chronic psychological stress. Not because the memories are inaccurate, but because the constant conflict between what you experienced and what you were being told you experienced creates a state of cognitive dissonance so prolonged and so intense that the brain begins prioritizing the external narrative over the internal one, simply to reduce the unbearable tension of holding both simultaneously. You stop telling your side of the story, not because you don't have one, not because it isn't real, but because you have been conditioned, argument by argument, month by month, to understand that your version of events will always be wrong, and defending it will always cost you more than surrendering it. The most devastating effect of gaslighting is not the specific memories it distorts.
It is the wholesale dismantling of your trust in your own mind. You begin to question not just the argument, but the instrument you use to process all of reality. When you cannot trust your own perception, you cannot make decisions. You cannot leave. You cannot even clearly articulate why you are unhappy, because every attempt to articulate it has been converted into evidence of your own instability. They didn't just make you question the argument, they made you question your own mind. And a person who cannot trust their own mind cannot find the door even when it is standing open directly in front of them. Isolation. It happens slowly, so slowly that by the time you notice, it is already complete. Your friendships fade, not dramatically, but through 1,000 small distances. Canceled plans you stopped rescheduling, conversations that felt too complicated to have, friends who asked questions you didn't have safe answers for, family relationships that felt like too much energy when you were already spending everything you had at home. They didn't remove your people with force. They used something quieter and far more effective: doubt. Carefully planted, consistently watered, never dramatic enough to be called manipulation. Did she actually show up when you needed her? Does he really understand you the way you deserve to be understood? Your family always leaves you feeling worse than before you saw them. I'm the only one who really knows you. Every seed of doubt about an external relationship is simultaneously a nail in a wall that has only one picture hanging on it: theirs. Your world contracts. The social circle that once surrounded you narrows to an acquaintance group that barely knows what's happening in your life. Then it narrows further to a few people who are slowly losing access to the real you. And that one person is the one causing the damage. This is not incidental. This is functional. A person with a strong support network has perspective, has people who remember who they were before, has people who can reflect reality back to them when their internal compass has been deliberately broken. A person with a strong support network has options, and options mean exits. Isolation is not a side effect of narcissistic abuse. It is a deliberate infrastructure project. It is the systematic removal of every external resource that could provide an alternative to dependence on the abuser. By the time you realize how alone you are, reaching out feels impossible because the shame of what you would have to explain is heavier than the silence.
Trauma bonding. By now, the cycle is fully established, and it runs with brutal efficiency. Cruelty, then kindness. Distance, then warmth. Destruction, then repair. The pattern repeats with enough variation to feel unpredictable, but enough consistency to be deeply conditioning. And your brain, specifically the dopamine and cortisol systems working in devastating combination, has developed an attachment to this person that operates on the same neurological pathways as severe chemical addiction. The science behind this is not abstract. Research on intermittent reinforcement, pioneered in behavioral psychology, demonstrates conclusively that unpredictable rewards produce stronger behavioral conditioning than consistent ones. A rat that receives food every time it presses a lever eventually stops pressing when the food stops. A rat that received food randomly continues pressing long after the food stops entirely. You are not different from this mechanism. No human brain is. The cortisol released during episodes of cruelty creates hypervigilance, a constant state of alert focused entirely on monitoring the abusers. Behavior, mood, and needs. The dopamine released during reconciliation, during the moments of warmth that follow the cruelty, spikes dramatically higher than it would in a normal, healthy relationship, because the contrast amplifies the chemical impact. The result is a nervous system that has been fully calibrated around one person. You think about them constantly. When you're away from them, when you're with other people, when you're alone and finally have a moment of quiet. The thoughts aren't chosen, they arrive because your entire neural architecture has reorganized itself around them as the central point. This is why you stay when every rational reason says leave.
This is why you defend them to the people who are trying to pull you out. This is why you miss them most intensely, precisely after the moments they hurt you worst. You are not confused. You are not stupid. You are not weak. You are bonded. And that bond was not formed through love. It was engineered through a precise alternation of pain and relief, repeated until your nervous system learned to call the cycle home. Trauma bonding does not mean you love them. It means your nervous system learned to survive them, and then forgot that surviving and loving are not the same thing.
The discard. One day, everything changes. Not gradually this time, completely. The coldness stops being intermittent and becomes the permanent weather. The person who once described you as irreplaceable now makes you feel invisible, disposable, and erased. The cruelty of the discard is not the ending itself. It is the story the ending tells you about yourself. Because by this stage, after everything that has been systematically removed from your self-perception, your trust in your memory, your confidence in your judgment, your support network, your sense of identity, the only logical conclusion your damaged self-worth can reach is that you caused this, that you were not enough, that you failed something fundamental. You perform an autopsy on every conversation. You trace every decision. You construct a timeline of your own failures, trying to locate the exact moment everything broke. Because if you can find it, you can fix it. And if you can fix it, you can return to stage one, which your trauma-bonded brain still experiences as home. But there is no moment to find. The discard was not triggered by your behavior. The discard was always the destination. Every stage before this, the love bombing, the idealization, the devaluation, the gaslighting, the isolation, the manufactured dependency, was preparation for this moment. Not preparation for a relationship, preparation for an exit that leaves you too psychologically destroyed to pursue accountability. The discard often comes with a replacement, someone new who is currently in their stage one, who is receiving the version of this person that you spent the last months or years desperately trying to earn back. Seeing this does not produce clarity. It produces the most vicious form of self-doubt. If they are capable of being that person, then the problem must have been me. It was not you. It was never you. The replacement is not evidence of your inadequacy. The replacement is evidence of the pattern, because you were also once the replacement, before the person before you was discarded. The discard is not the end of the relationship. It is the end of your perceived usefulness. And the fact that you grieve it, that you would return if asked, is not weakness.
It is the final proof of how completely the previous stages did their work. Hoovering. You begin to breathe again. Slowly, unevenly, but the oxygen is returning. The fog is beginning to thin at the edges. The silence, which at first felt like devastation, is starting to feel like something else. Like the first stages of a self you thought was gone forever. And then your phone lights up. A message. 3 words or 30, depending on what they calculated would work best. An apology that sounds like everything you spent the entire relationship waiting to hear. A vulnerability you've never seen from them before. A crisis designed to activate your empathy. The same empathy that drew them to you in the first place. The same empathy they have spent the relationship exploiting. Or perhaps simply a casual message, a memory, a song. Something so light it feels safe to respond to. Your body responds before your mind can intervene. Relief. Physical. Cellular. Immediate. The trauma bond activates. The dopamine fires. The nervous system, which spent months in survival mode, calibrated entirely to this person, floods with the chemical equivalent of coming home. This is called hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner because the mechanism is identical. They are suctioning you back. What is actually happening has nothing to do with love and nothing to do with change. The narcissist experienced what psychology identifies as a narcissistic injury, the specific psychological pain of losing control over a source of supply. Your growing independence, your returning clarity, your increasing distance, these are not experienced by the narcissist as your healing. They are experienced as a threat, a loss of power, an unacceptable outcome. Nothing about them has changed. The patterns have not changed. The capacity for change has not changed. Only the strategy has changed. Because the discard strategy stopped serving its purpose the moment you started recovering from it.
They do not return because they miss you. They return because you stopped being theirs. And in their internal architecture, that is an intolerable condition that requires correction. If you return, and many people do, not because they are foolish, but because the bond is neurological and the pull is overwhelming, the cycle does not restart from stage 1. It restarts from wherever the discard left off. Slightly faster, slightly more intense, with a slightly shorter love bombing phase, because the investment has already been made. The cycle is always shorter the second time, and the third, because each return teaches them precisely how much is required to keep you. And each time, the answer becomes slightly less. Hoovering is not a second chance. It is a test to see if the exit you found can be permanently closed.
The aftermath. The relationship ends. The damage does not. You leave, or they leave finally and don't return, and you stand in the silence, expecting to feel free. Instead, you feel hollow, hypervigilant. Your nervous system, trained through prolonged psychological stress to operate in a permanent state of threat detection, does not receive the message that the threat is over. The amygdala continues firing. The body continues bracing. You apologize constantly to people who haven't asked for an apology, for things that required no apology. You second-guess every thought before you express it. You wait for the criticism that doesn't come and feel more anxious in its absence than you did in its presence. You flinch at raised voices. You interpret neutral expressions as disapproval. You feel guilty for having needs, because having needs was trained out of you, one dismissal at a time. You don't recognize what happened as abuse, not immediately, because the abuse left no physical evidence. What it left was interior, a rebuilt internal architecture, a recalibrated nervous system.
A version of yourself that is smaller, less certain, and more afraid than the version that walked into stage 1. Clinically, what you are experiencing is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, produced not by a single event, but by prolonged, repeated psychological abuse within a relationship of emotional dependency. Your brain is not broken. Your brain adapted, the way all brains adapt to survive their environment. The problem is that the environment is gone, and the adaptations remain. The most dangerous long-term consequence is not the trauma itself. It is the tolerance, the recalibrated baseline that now experiences what was done to you as familiar, and therefore unconsciously as normal. The risk is not that you will fall for the same person. The risk is that you will fall for the same pattern, wearing a different face, because the pattern is what your nervous system was taught to recognize as love. Narcissistic abuse doesn't leave marks you can show a doctor.
It leaves marks that make you question whether any of it was real, whether you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too broken to be loved correctly. That questioning is not your conclusion. That questioning is the last stage of what was done to you. And the moment you understand that, the moment you stop asking what was wrong with you and start understanding what was done to you, that is not the end of the damage, but it is finally the beginning of the way out.